Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
10,000. I remember it was the summer of 2000. My wife handed me an article that she had in one of her magazines talking about the power of 10,000 steps. And health experts often point to walking 10,000 steps a day as a benchmark for good health and longevity. It's a simple metric. I remember going and buying a pedometer and wearing a pedometer for years. And then I got a Fitbit, and then I got an Apple Watch. Continue it. I'm very anal. I get it. I have a spreadsheet that keeps track of all my steps day to day, going back to that time, and my daily numbers and averages, and so on and so forth. It helps me keep focused on doing the things I need to do and being healthy. Does it work? It can't hurt. 10,000. Then I came across an article not an article, it was in Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, which came out in 2008. And he talked about 10,000 hours to mastery. That devoting 10,000 hours to something would help make you a master. And he based that on research by psychologist Anders Ericsson, who studied elite performers. Malcolm Gladwell simplified it into the idea that it takes roughly 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to become world class at something. So 10,000. There's a whole lot to that, to the number 10,000. I recently received an article, a newsletter from Michael Roderick. He was on the podcast several years ago. It's with Small Pond Enterprises, and he has a daily that he comes out with. He writes just a short essay every day. He probably has 10,000 of them. But he was talking with friends and discussing the concept of connectors and what makes a great connector. And when the concept turned to him, and they asked what he thought about it, he shared the following ideas. Again, most of us have heard of the 10,000 hour concept and how you become a true expert at it, of 10,000 hours of practice. And he thinks there's an equivalent to connectors. Instead of 10,000 hours, 10,000 introductions. And he goes on to admit he's never counted the number of connections that he's made. I've never gone and counted the connections I've made, and I don't plan to go back and figure it out. But if you stop and you do the math, it starts to add up rather quickly. And you amass lots and lots of different connections. It's probably very difficult to keep track of because you might be at a networking event and you're just connecting two people, and are you thinking in the moment, okay, yeah, I need to write this one down, or, sometimes it's very casual, sometimes it's more formal. Somebody asked me for some connections last week, and I gave them 5 or 6 different connections. And so it happened quickly, and it's kind of in the heat of the moment, and you just kind of forget and don't write it down. So is he at 10,000? I don't know. Am I at 10,000? I don't know. But as he points out in here, the bigger idea is practice and just getting yourself in the habit of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to introduce one person this week, right? Just kind of get yourself focused. Where focus goes, energy flows. Tony Robbins. And just saying, okay, I'm going to make an introduction this week. I don't know who it is, but so often people don't even start on that, or introduction a month, or just being focused on, okay, just making one introduction. But if you stop and think about it, you can make a whole lot of introductions because you have people in your life. You have lots of people in your life. If you have 100 people in your life, you can make what? Well, it's 99 introductions. Actually, it's more than that. If you have 100 people in your life, you're talking about wow, it's a lot of it's that would be I have to do the math on this. Bear with me. Bear with me here. If you have 100 people, 4,950 introductions you can make. I mean, it's staggering. You can make a lot of introductions. Um, introducing person 1 to 2 and 1 to 3 and 1 to 4 and so on and so forth. It adds up. But the the issue is starting. It's just is starting and getting yourself in the habit of making introductions. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that things are going to come back to you. There never is a guarantee that things come back to you. But if you get in the habit of making introductions, your numbers will quickly go up. And I look at it this way. Yeah, there's no guarantee of reciprocation, but there's the law of large numbers out there, in that, over time things kind of average out, if you will. And when you're doing things, some of these introductions are going to pay off for you in a big way. Some aren't going to pay off for you at all. But in the aggregate, in the average, things are going to come back to you by making introductions. I have people in my life who do a lot of introducing. They introduce me to a lot of good people, a lot of people to be on this podcast. And they're top of mind for me. They're kind of in that category. I've got to try and do something for Berta Medina. She's somebody. Um, Jason Zagadlo. There's lots of people. There. Michelle Murder. I mean, it's just it goes down the line. There are people out there, and because they've done that, they're on my radar, and you would be on other people's radar too. You would be the go-to person by just embarking on the notion. Okay, I'm going to make some introductions. One a week. Sit down with your database and look, and it's relatively easy to find two people who don't know one another. And if it turns out you introduce people and they happen to know one another, this happened to me last week. Somebody introduced me to somebody I already know. Now, you might roll your eyes and say, oh, that was a big waste. And it's like, well, it's not a waste. It's the thought that counts. The person's trying. They're trying to help me. I appreciate that. I think the positive there is they introduced me to somebody I think is really great. Thank you. I already know them, but thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for understanding, because this is a great person and you understand what I'm looking for. So there's some positivity there. So I'm not saying you need to make 10,000 introductions. I don't know where I'm at, and it really doesn't matter. It's the notion of kind of committing to trying to do something, trying to be more intentional about it. Just like me putting a pedometer on all those years ago and saying, okay, you know what? I need to have a focus to what I'm doing. And what I found with respect to wearing the pedometer is, because I had a pedometer on, I was just going to try and get more steps. I mean, when I initially started wearing it, it was 3,000-4,000 steps a day. That was my. Well, I need to get to 10. I mean, I only had 3 to 4. What else can I do? Well, I can park a little further away. I can go for a walk. In the morning, I can go for a walk after dinner. I can sneak in steps to get myself to 10,000. And so it's the same sort of thing with respect to introductions. If you give yourself a goal and say, you know what, I'm going to make one a week. And you can just, who's that one a week? You put it on your calendar, keep a list of it. You're going to become more intentional with respect to making introductions. And introductions are probably the simplest, least expensive, most impactful thing you can do with respect to networking. I mean, it's just you connect two people and they're going to remember that. They're going to remember that. My son was at a wedding this weekend. He didn't even think about it, but he had introduced the bride and the groom to one another at another wedding 2 years earlier. He had gone to high school with one person and gone to college with another. Knew that they were both at the wedding single and just introduced them, and didn't think anything of it. They hit it off. Year and a half later, 2 years later, they're married. You never know where these things are going to go. I'm not saying you need to be a matchmaker, but you don't know where these things are going to go. You can connect people, and they go into business together. They're the reason that they can take on more clients or serve their clients better. So, introductions, the power of introductions, 10,000. That's a lofty goal. Just start with saying, okay, just start by having a goal and attacking that one little goal. If you do that, you're going to be comfortable with that goal, and you're going to move on from it. My initial goal for steps each day was 10,000. Now I've moved beyond that. I won't even get into it. I've moved beyond that. 10,000 is just, that's just another day. It doesn't really push me. It's just part of the framework of my life. It's the same thing for you. If you just say, okay, I'm just going to do one introduction a week, you're going to get comfortable with that at some point, and then you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to do 2. Or I'm going to do 5. Or I should be able to do an introduction every day. And once you start to get in tune to the notion of, okay, I'm making introductions, I can do this, you're going to do more of them. And in time, again, the law of large numbers, in time, things are going to happen for you. But again, introductions, they're simple, inexpensive, and very impactful.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.